Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. And that is a quote by Oscar Wilde. And then I thought I'd throw in another one I liked. Be the first-rate version of yourself, not a second-rate version of someone else. And that's by Judy Garland. So welcome again to The Profitable Photographer. I'm still Lucy in my lovely house in an old neighborhood in San Diego. Yeah, that's where I am. I'm super excited to introduce you to Cate Scaglione. Uh, Before I do, remember that Lucy Dumas, sorry, whoops, Lucy Dumascoaching.com, that's it, is where you can find this show. This is also on YouTube. And if you want to talk to me, you can just click a 20-minute call or you can send me an email. No big whoop. All right. So let me tell you about this lovely Cate. She's an international award-winning boudoir photographer and educator. And she's been celebrated as one of the original boudoir photographers in our industry. Her unique career background started in advertising and brand development, and then she brings all of that into her art and her business. Doing sensual storytelling, I like that, with a fine art sensibility. Ooh. She claims to uplift and inspire women to live life confidently in their feminine energy. And her dedication to her craft and business has earned her oodles of recognition. You got to go see her work. It's unbelievable.
Thank you.
So, hello, Miss Cate.
Hello.
Hello. We've been a long time trying to
I
get our
know.
schedules together. And so I'm excited that today is the day.
Today's the day. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we're on opposite coasts. So, but
I
we'll
was just in San Diego.
really.
Yes, I didn't know that that was your home base.
Oh,
I would have visited.
what were you here for?
A college visit, actually, with
The
my daughter.
UCSD or state?
San Diego State.
Yeah, or I could say USD. So is that where she's going to go?
It was until the acceptance came in from Virginia Tech. So she
Ah,
decided to stay out east.
nice. All right.
Yeah.
So, how did you get started in photography or boudoir, or what's a little bit that people would want to know about how you arrived at being this amazing photographer?
Well, thank you. It's funny because when I was in school, I part of my curriculum in studying advertising was to learn photography. So um, I started with that coursework, and eventually I was shooting black and white nudes all the time as part of my
Mm.
curriculum. It's kind of foreshadowing, having no idea I'd be doing this one day, but that's kind of how I got started with photography through my education formally, and then I worked in the advertising world, so I was always on photo shoots.
So you got in the advertising world because you chose to actually study and learn about that stuff?
I think I was kind of attracted and drawn to it because I'm a little bit right brain and left brain as a
Mhm.
person. So I'm very business minded, but I'm also extremely like creative minded. So to me, that seemed like a good career to blend the two. And it really was a good blend of those two things. And I've had some really amazing adventures doing that. So it almost seems surreal, you know?
How long have you been doing photography as a career?
So I started officially in 2009 is when I opened my business. I was doing it a little bit before then, but 2009 is when I opened my LLC, and I started focusing solely on boudoir shortly after.
Mm.
My original start was actually shooting newborns, which was what I loved, and I wanted to bring almost an artistic sensibility to newborns, but then people kept asking me, well, can you shoot my product the way you're shooting newborns? Or can you shoot my small business the way you're shooting newborns? And I was dabbling in everything with a specific style. And a photographer once said to me, wow, that style would be really incredible if you transferred it to boudoir. And I landed in boudoir a little accidentally with one job.
Mhm.
uh, but I had brought that style over and it really translated and worked well with it.
I love that. So you kind of dabbled in things
Mhm.
And I'm a babies are my thing. Um, I don't do
Really good
baby
for
burritos and things like that. I'm a little more like I love the skin on skin and black and white and baby over shoulder, different kinds of things.
yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like it's good for the soul, that kind of work, you know.
yes, yes.
And boudoir is too, in a way, in a different way, but
Yeah, I dabbled in it a little bit, but it was pre-digital and it was
Mhm.
so hard to make a woman's parts be pleasing to her without a little digital magic. And with babies,
Yeah,
moms love their babies the way they look. You don't have
yeah,
to get the
yeah.
perfect drape something just right to hide something they may not like and stuff. Yeah, it wasn't my forte. But I love that it has become such a viable and wonderful art form that, and we're going to talk about this more in a bit, but that helps women understand their beauty and their power and all those things. So, yeah, the trend, because back in my day, Kate, I've been around for 40 years, boudoir, it was a big deal for a while, but it was pinup kind
Yes.
of things done by men. So it had a whole other flavor to it.
Yes. My mother-in-law is in her 80s and she told me stories about her going to this studio and the man draped her with fabric and she was like, and she sent it off to her husband who was in Germany, you know, with the military and he was in the army. And so it was a very different vibe than the way women are coming in now, for
Yeah,
sure.
lots of props,
Plenty of props.
um, sexier poses. I had that myself, and the one that my then boyfriend, the ones he preferred were the ones where I just looked great. The ones
Yeah.
that were, like a penthouse pinup-y thing. He was like, that's okay. So, anywho, yes, I love the new trends and that you're in the forefront of that because you said '09. So that
Yeah.
'09?
Yeah, 2009.
That's a long.
So it's funny you mentioned about the men and or your ex-boyfriend and what he was preferring. And sometimes when I see men come in the studio, they'll come in with their significant other to kind of pick out images sometimes. And I notice a trend. I pay attention to what the men like, and a lot of times they're picking ones where she's not trying hard. She's just being herself, and it's her natural self. And I say we go through all of this effort to like glam up and these
Yeah,
elaborate outfits and yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so one of the things you love to share, and you do some teaching, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the client experience is one of your superpowers. So
Mhm.
tell me, what do you mean by the client experience?
Well, I think especially for boudoir, and this really goes for any genre of photography, but especially for boudoir, I'm coming from the world of luxury branding, so I would pay attention throughout my career of like, what are the big brands doing to convey luxury, and how are they doing it? And a lot of times it was less about the visuals or the bells and whistles and more about what you're making the customer or the client feel. And so I am always very mindful to make sure that their emotions, or what I say are five senses, are being gratified. So I try to create an experience that touches all five of their senses so that it's more memorable for them, it's more meaningful to them, and they actually have like almost a physical bodily experience going
Mm,
through this, you know. It's part psychology and part photography in a way.
hmm So why is that important to have the luxury experience, or how does that enhance your business to have this five sensory uh,
Yeah. I
sen-
mean, I think from, you know, I think one thing we're seeing trending with luxury spending overall, like in the consumer market, is like um, people are spending more, investing more in experiences, especially people of a certain age group where it's less about the material goods now and people are funneling more of their investments into things they can experience and feel. And so I have found over the years, like the average spend for boudoir is trending upward. Like these experiences, you know, they're coming in for the artwork. They want pretty pictures, but they're also coming in for this transformation within themselves. And they're willing to invest in that, you know. It's almost, I say spa day for the soul, you know.
Mm.
It's kind of a vacation for their inner self. And I actually try to create experience here at my studio where it's kind of they step out of the norm and their everyday life, and it's almost like they're in another place. So any studio space that I've had, and I'm on my third or maybe fourth studio now, I try to make it so that it feels a little out of the ordinary. Like they don't feel like they're shooting in their home. They feel like they're in a Parisian apartment, or they feel like
Mm.
they're in Italy, or they feel like they're someplace otherworldly. And I put things in my studio which they may not have in their everyday lives. So, for example, some women never put on a pair of heels, especially since 2020 when everybody was on lockdown, like heels
Yeah.
went out, you know.
If it
But
doesn't feel like PJs, I rarely wear it anymore.
yeah, and I'm a high heel girl, but I kind of fell off of that too a bit, you know. But like I just try to make things special so that it feels like an experience where they're stepping out of ordinary life and doing something extraordinary. And so part of it is the experience, but also I'm working from a neurology standpoint where I'm like trying to get their nervous system calmed so that they can like be present within themselves and have mindfulness about what we're doing throughout the session. So that it's, you know, partially the experience, partially them relaxed so that I can pose them in a way that looks authentic. And then the result is the beautiful artwork. And from a business standpoint, having that relaxed, authentic person that's totally themselves, they see it in the photos and they actually have a hard time narrowing down. So I end up selling much larger albums, you know?
Mhm. Um, so so what I'm hearing is, first of all, that luxury, when people are investing now, there's kind of been a culture shift where
Yeah.
the whole thing and things that are an experience, I don't know, things and things, that it's not just about the product for people who can afford and want luxury. And it doesn't have to be like a yacht, for
Right.
a weekend, but something, sorry, it's in my brain. Okay, get it out there. Anyway, that it's not just about the thing itself, it's about how you feel. And
Yeah.
maybe even, I mean, if we think about like an actual spa day, all that happens there is the feels. Like you're not
Yeah.
going home. Maybe you'll go home with a lotion or something that they used because you liked it, but the product is the experience. So
Mhm.
what you're doing is you're creating an experience that has a product at the end,
Mhm.
but a big draw. And I'm guessing what makes it easier to command higher dollars is because it's the experience of it as well that they're paying for. And
Right.
it sounds like you make it subliminally or maybe even obvious that they're paying for this beautiful setup. I love what you said about the Paris apartment. That's my decorating style. My little vacation rental above my garage. It's a cute little granny flat and it's decorated mid-century modern with a French accent. So
Oh, I love that.
it's like a French, like a Paris apartment. Anyhow,
Yeah.
so just coming into your space, when I see your background and that fainting couch and things, yeah, it just feels like I'd like to step in there and languish on that couch. I could see how it puts people at ease. Am I,
I feel like
am
clients will always tell me, like, when they step into the space, they're like, there's something about, and they've told me this about my last space too, and it comes from intentional design and how I'm decorating and objects that I'm putting and colors and things like that. They'll say, it's so calming in here. And I do that throughout the entire experience so that they feel free to let go.
I,
Um, I'm not doing mannequin posing. I actually want to see them in movement so that I get them that what's their version of their authentic sensual self, you know? So by having all of these elements and having all their senses touched and having uh, that ability to just unwind, it just creates a different sort of atmosphere. And that's my version of luxury. I'm a yogi too. So like, I think a lot about mindfulness and, you know, when I teach classes and I say the word luxury, it almost has a stigma because I think people think luxury means big price tag. They think materialism, but it's not that. It's like going above and beyond and also like serving people in a way that suits them, you
Hmm.
know?
Hmm. Um, I watch some reality shows, and one of the ones I like is Below Deck. I don't know why.
Oh, yeah.
I like watching people make beds and cook food and stuff, but over and over and over, they talk about this is a luxury yacht, and we are giving them the luxury experience.
Mhm.
So I think it goes all into that. Now, yes, that the food needs to be impeccable and the boat needs to be amazing. But other than that, it's the service, it's the atmosphere, it's the intangibles
Yeah.
that make that feel like it was worth. I don't know if they pay $100,000. I have no idea what it costs to rent a yacht for 8 people for 2 nights, but it's they couldn't get that kind of money if it was just get on the boat, here's the food, there's a place to sleep, right?
Right. I
Yeah.
think there's an emotional component to luxury that sometimes gets ignored. Like people are trying to get people in and out the door and they're trying to check all the boxes, but it's more of like how you make people feel.
Hmm.
And it's that emotional component that I think makes it a little different. And if you're exceptionally intuitive or empathetic with people, you can serve a little bit differently in a way that's kind of superior. Like anybody could have a better studio than I do, or maybe even a better product, but it's kind of how you make them feel, you know, and
Hmm.
that's skill set.
So if you're not a natural intuitive, like you probably figured out I'm that as well, kind of an empath. If how can you cultivate that? Do you have tips on you?
Well, yeah, I mean, well, I recognize that not everybody is the same, and that's not good or bad. It's just like we're all kind of different. And, you know, some people are more logical and stoic and things like that. But one thing I teach in some of my classes is if this doesn't come naturally to you, identify sort of what you consider luxury branding. And that's different for everybody. Everybody has a different context of what luxury is, but go to these places, make a list, and go to these places and watch how you're served as a customer.
Hmm?
Watch. You don't have to buy anything, just go in. Watch how you're served, watch how you're treated, pay attention to the nuances and pay attention to how they're speaking to you, what is the language, what are
Hmm.
they offering you, and you're able to kind of pick up bits and pieces from all of these different places and then bring it into your business. And I've done that and I continue to do it. I'm constantly trying to evolve. Even, you know, 15 years doing this, I'm still trying to evolve how I serve clients.
Hmm. Interesting. I just had a little flash awareness, Kate. So I I like to shop. I don't necessarily always need to spend, but I like, the hunt kind of
Yeah, yeah.
experience. And for years and years, I felt like if I went into a luxury store, they knew I wasn't really qualified to be there.
Mm-hmm.
My own inner demon.
Mm-hmm.
That was I dressed nice enough? It's like somehow I thought these shop gals that worked there were rich and fancy or something. You know what I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about? Because the
Yeah,
environment was luxury.
yeah,
But I think when I started shopping at Nordstrom, they treat you like gold,
yes.
no matter how you're dressed. They're helpful, they're there. They that snooty quality that I don't know what stores I was going into where I felt that, but um they made me feel like I was worthy to
Right.
be there. The whole culture of shopping and things, like the when we think about the Pretty Woman. Do you remember
I
the
was
scene?
just thinking that. I was,
Okay,
as
you
you
tell the
said it, I
story.
thought of that.
In case people don't know, I'll let you tell that. See,
So, yeah, that scene in the movie, she goes into this fancy boutique. Her new boyfriend, whatever he is, sends her to the store to get something for a polo match. And she's going in to buy some clothing. And they look at her and they pass judgment on the way she looks. And they're like, I don't think we have anything in your size. And she's like, well, you don't even know my size. And they're like, yep. And we don't have it, you know, and they send her on her way. And then he comes back and buys out the store, hands the credit card, and he said, you know, she came in with her bags and she's like, big mistake, big
big
mistake.
mistake. Yeah.
But, you know, I think, you know, I've seen it too here in my own studio. I've learned over these 15 years, like, you cannot ever judge a book by its cover, because, or by profession or anything else, because some of my biggest spenders have been people that you would never expect.
Hmm.
Like, people that are, I have clients who are teachers, and you'd think on a teacher's salary maybe this would be a little out of bounds, and sometimes they're the biggest, they're the best clients. Or you know, and then my studio is in a very, very wealthy area, one of the richest neighborhoods in the country, and sometimes these are not the best clients,
Hmm.
because many, I serve, mostly serve women, and many of them don't, are not the breadwinner. So sometimes they feel that they need permission to spend,
Mm.
unless they're astronomically wealthy, and you know, but sometimes they don't feel permission to spend the money, and they'll say, I have to ask my husband, or I need permission, or I got to check this over with him. It's the women that are kind of living their own lives and making their own decisions for themselves and kind of standing in their own, that make the best clients. And you just can't judge that by the way someone looks, you
Right.
know.
Right. In San Diego, the wealthiest area is Rancho Santa Fe, and they are not the best clients at.
Yeah.
Oh, they only put real art on the walls. That is a common thing that that they say. And you and I have spent as much time cultivating our real art as any
Yeah.
painter or sculptor. You know, it's just a different tool in our hands. So yeah, thank you for all of that. Um, so do you have like, can you tell us specifically 4 or 5 things that you teach people on how to create the client experience? My audience likes bullet points, so can you give me some of those?
Well, I'll start with the five senses. So um like, let's see, we'll start with taste. So the minute they come in the studio, I make sure that I give them a taste of another world. So I do I ask them, would you like some Italian prosecco? I keep French croissants. Like, sometimes if I need a break while they're in hair and makeup, I'll actually run to the bakery myself just to decompress, or prepare myself, and I'll bring them hot croissants. You know, I make
Hmm.
sure that their taste buds are tasting something that's memorable. Or I keep chocolate truffles in the studio, things like that. um, just a taste of another world, you know.
Hmm.
Sound. So my goal in my entire experience is keeping their nervous system calm, so that, as I mentioned, they can be their authentic self and they're not feeling nervous. Because a lot of women, and I get a lot of very um, quiet women, women who are more private. I get a lot of older women, or maybe women that aren't confident with their bodies. I attract a lot of those clients.
Hmm.
So sound, I'm keeping it slow and low. It's lo-fi chill. It is spa music. Like,
Lo-fi chill.
I don't have like Beyonce pumping until I see they're ready, and maybe they want to get a little party into it, you know, but I'm really trying to keep this whole nervous system grounded. So sound,
Mhm.
taste, sound, sight. You know, I have a certain aesthetic in the studio, and I try to make the space look dreamy, make it look like it's out of the ordinary. I choose specifically colors that will also calm the nervous system. I work with a lot of neutrals because I like my work to have a certain palette. Um, what else we got? Touch. I keep a lot of textures in the studio, because a big part of luxury is texture.
Mm.
Very what do we call that, tactile. So
Mhm.
I make sure I have a lot of florals and plants and velvets and like rugs, and if you look behind me, I have like layered rugs. And uh,
Mhm.
so people don't know what it is about the experience when all of these things are combined together, but when you put them all together, it creates this overall impression like, wow, it was the best day ever. And
Yeah.
they don't necessarily know why, but you know why because you're building that. So
Right.
I don't know if that's one bullet point or five.
Okay. So smell. Do you,
Smell. I have, yes, I have, thank you. I have a signature scent in the studio. So I visited Las Vegas once, and I hate Las Vegas because it's overwhelming for me.
me too.
And I go there a lot for WPPI or conferences that I'm teaching. And I stayed once at the Delano Hotel, which is different than the other hotels.
Hmm.
It's like a spa space. It's very relaxing. And I was in the lobby. I'm like, what is that smell? Because it was like intoxicating. And I had to find out. So I Googled it and I found out that they have their own scent and they make one for the daytime, one for the nighttime for different moods. Scent is actually for the memory, is the strongest trigger of memory. So not only do I have the scent pumping in the studio when they're here, but when they come to pick up their product, I spray the tissue paper of the album in the bag so that it smells like that. So when they get home, they're remembering the whole experience again, subconsciously, subliminally.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
make that a very big part. And everybody always walks in like, oh my God, it smells so amazing in here.
Mm. I started to notice that at Nordstrom that
Yeah.
when I don't let them waste packaging anymore, I don't care. But I would notice just that the clothes and the tissue paper would have a scent. Now, do you ask people? Because I am very allergic to fragrance, and a lot of
Mhm.
people are these
Yeah.
days. Do you ask first if they?
Well, I don't make it overpowering or overwhelming. I did at one point when I was doing more in-depth consultations. I got a little too busy to do the consultations the way I was doing them before. I would have a whole questionnaire, but it's something very easy that photographers could just put into their questionnaire, like, do you have any allergies we should be aware of? If someone was telling me my scents don't like they're not a plug it like a
Yeah.
they're not constant. It's in a fan. It's in a machine, so I can easily cut it off, you
Okay.
know. I also have multiple rooms because my studio is a whole house. So it's not as overwhelming. It's very subtle. But I think that people could put that in their questionnaire as a
Mhm.
safeguard, you know.
Yeah.
And I'd like to know about food allergies too before they come.
Right. Right. Okay. Anything else before I go on to another topic about client
Um,
experience?
The other thing I would say is if you notice, like with a client experience in a brand that you love, Nordstrom would be a great example. Like they don't make things difficult. So if you have a return or you have a problem or you're dissatisfied, they are not going to make you jump through hoops. Now, I have client contracts? Yes. It's more of an agreement, but
Hmm.
I don't like to say loose on it. I definitely follow policies to protect me, but I understand that luxury services really cater to the needs of the client. And so if someone's unhappy with something, I'm not going to nickel and dime them. I'll say, what can I do to make you happy? What can I do? And if I have to lay out a little bit of money to rectify a situation, I will do it because it's worth it to keep the client and get their referrals. I
Hmm.
actually had a situation this morning I had to do that. And I'm like, what would you like? How can I make you happy? Here are some suggestions. If that's not good enough, I'll reprint your whole album, whatever you would like. And that's what they remember. And that's how you get more clients, you know.
Right.
And I copy that from all of these luxury brands that I've worked with over the years or that I visit and take notice of, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, I've always liked how Nordstrom makes returns so easy. And now with credit cards, I don't even have to have a receipt because they just, if I have the credit card, they just plug that in. There's the thing, I return it. Now, they wouldn't let me return a pair of socks the other day that I only tried on and didn't wear. And I think they're slipping because it left me is only $11, but it
Right.
left me with a bad taste that they wouldn't
Right.
take back a pair of socks.
Right.
My mom,
Especially if you've been such a loyal customer, you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
That it's a great example. Like that right there is a perfect example.
yeah. It was a little jarring. My mom used to work at J.C. Penney's, which is not a luxury situation, but their return policy used to be, we'll take back anything.
Yeah.
no matter how long you've had it, no matter how worn out it is. And she said people would bring things that like had the Sears label on it, insist they bought it at Penny's, and they would take it back because the cost of taking something back compared to, or like in our case, the cost of reprinting, especially reprinting, because even though it feels like a chunk of change compared to the value of it, a $400, $500 album to reprint, if it's a five, six, $10,000 sale, we need to build our pricing so that we can afford
Right.
to do what we need to occasionally.
I also choose my vendors accordingly because I did have
Yes.
a look. I had a luxury album company. I don't like to mention names, but European, and I had a $700 album that printed too dark, and they made it a me problem when I didn't think it was a me problem, and I had been a client for a long time and they wouldn't take it back. So I was out $700, and I remembered that. I moved album companies. I'm actually a brand ambassador with Floricolor. That's my album company. And quality the same or better, but fraction of the price. So I can actually have an album $200 or $300. So if I make a mistake, I can bend over backwards for this client and make her new album.
Mhm.
If
Yeah.
it's, and to be honest, it was actually her mistake. She didn't
Mhm.
notice one of her images wasn't in her album, but she's referred so many people and she was on her third session with me. Why would I ever jeopardize that over $200, $300?
Right. Right. And I appreciate labs that maybe even if it's my mistake, they will give me the sample price. So they may take 25% off. I don't know if Floricolor does that. I'll have to look into them more because album
Mm.
companies keep going out of business and changing. And but yes, making sure that we get good service from our vendors so we can feel comfortable giving good service to clients. Um, so yeah, I had a little thought, but it has fluttered away about all of that. But
The other thing one other point I make about the client experience is like, I learned this, I worked at American Express for a long time. American Express, the whole company's foundation is built on service. And within American Express, there's a lot of little different luxury brands, travel, and all this other stuff. But their one marketing internal phrase we would use is surprise and delight.
mm,
So going above and beyond when your client doesn't expect it. So they'll ask you for something, but you're delivering above and beyond. So, for example, because I use this album company that is more economical to my business, I can throw in extra things. If I have a bridal boudoir client, a lot of times I'll just automatically upgrade their album and they don't know it until they pick it up, and I'll have a piece of wall art for them as a wedding gift from the studio as a thank you, but I'm able to do that because I'm choosing the right economics. You know what I mean?
right.
So surprise and delight is a big thing that I teach in my classes, and we go over some of the different ways to do that. So that might be my third. I don't know if I gave you 5 bullets, but I hope I gave you
No,
some.
those are the little bonus. So we've got the basic five, and then don't make things difficult, and surprise and delight is
Right.
that is a little bonus. All right. So another one of your superpowers and what you teach is how to help women become more confident. So
Hmm.
we have a little bit of time left to talk about that. So tell me more about that.
Well, I think I probably am my client at one point in time. So I can identify what it feels like. Like if you're a mother and you're mired in toddlers running around and maybe you've lost a piece of yourself. I gave up my former career when my children were babies. They were all close in age. Um, you start to lose little pieces of yourself. And over time, you forget who you are,
Hmm.
and that really shake your confidence. And so I can absolutely identify with that, and I can attract clients who maybe are living that because of how I project my messaging and my artwork, and showcasing other clients who are just like them, things like that through marketing. um, I feel as now I'm a mature woman, I'm 51. um, I can embody confidence because I've entered a new season into my life. So even when I have clients who are maybe in their 30s or 40s, I have some clients who are in their 20s just getting married. You're projecting yourself, and this is my authentic self now. I've grown into myself as a confident woman, and I try to maintain that at all times and project that outward so that they understand. It's almost like to be a role model for women who maybe don't feel like they identify anymore with their old self, or that they need permission to be their old self, or they need somebody to help them kind of unlock the sensuality. Like, I have no problem or no shame being very outward about sensuality, and even putting myself out there, because I want to be an example and give other women permission, to do that. And I think that as a photographer, and you're going to work in this line of work, you have to really embody what you stand for and just authentically be that. And I actually come across a lot of photographers, boudoir photographers, who are not confident in their own bodies or confident in their own selves. And it's really hard to draw that out of another person if you're not feeling it yourself. And you have to do a lot of work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, have you followed Sue Bryce from the beginning?
Yeah. I mean, I think I started following her back in 2010, maybe around
Okay.
then. Yeah.
So I,
Just she was beginning all her education and things.
yeah, so I was at a workshop when before anyone knew her, and then she launched and, started becoming globally famous,
Hmm.
but she would express her own insecurities.
Yes.
And she did I don't know, I think it might have been on Creative Live, where she had somebody photograph her
Mm,
and do the reveal, and she was terrified. And watching her be photographed and see, like, I so respect her for, like, boom, here I am.
yeah.
And she didn't even want to look at it. She cried when she saw the photographs. And I watched her come into her own, and her work, her career, her magnetism, like, multiplied. We know the global phenomena she is and how much she has contributed to the industry. But I think it cracked open when she had the experience that you offer people,
Hmm.
to understand and to have her own confidence. So I love that what you said, that photographers, um, highly recommend that photographers who are not as confident as they wish they were do what needs to be done so that they can be in the shoes of their clients. And so their clients will feel it from them. Is that, am I on track? Is that what
You
you're?
you are. I mean, it takes a lot of work, and it's very vulnerable. I was just speaking at WPPI back in March, and on stage I kind of opened with, let me tell you a story about a woman that I worked with. And I told the story about how she grew up her whole life just not feeling pretty, being bullied, made fun of. She was severely underweight. And like, people would say she's anorexic, or she's this or she's that. Beautiful older sister, but people would tell her, you're not as pretty as your sister.
Mm-hmm.
When you grow up programmed in a certain way, and then you become adult, it doesn't matter what you look like some of that will never leave you.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of embedded, and you have to do a lot to overcome that, and sometimes these shoots help do that. But the punchline of telling this story to the audience was that that person was me,
Mm-hmm.
and I understand how vulnerable people are coming into these shoots because I was that person. But I've done so much to overcome, you know those things. Like, none of that was my fault. None of that is how I identify. People have a certain idea of who I am, but I say, there's some days that that little part of me will creep up.
Mm-hmm.
Have to remind yourself, like, that's not this.
Right.
Um, and so having that understanding and really doing the work like that really helps you be a better Sherpa for your clients.
I love that. I love that. What comes to mind for me I have my own story. We all do, women especially. And I have spent too much time, too much everything wondering if I'm pretty. And so I could imagine, and now when I look at, pictures of me and think about the fact that I dated beautiful men, so I must have been kind of cute. I also have other attributes. Um, and my dad was one to support accomplishment,
Mm.
but not focus anything at all on looks or saying,
Same,
oh, my
same.
pretty girl. No, it was, I'm proud of you, get good grades. And if I had, let's say, at 30, had an experience where that's it, here's the truth. You were a lovely young woman. Now get on with the rest.
Mhm.
The amount of energy wasted,
Mm.
even, who you date, who you look up to, those kinds of things. It's like we're all, especially, I can't remember who it is that, um, some teacher that was saying, everyone in their 20s is beautiful. Every man and every woman, we're factory fresh. We've just become these adults. We're gorgeous. And if we just knew that, then think about what else we can accomplish with the energy
Mm.
and the internal struggle. You know what I'm saying? That we go through as if, and first of all, if we can diminish the importance of being physically attractive, um, or I don't know, it just the another like one of the big awarenesses that happened to me, and I think now with all the videos and the Zooms, it's easier to understand this, but attractiveness is not just about what we look like in a two-dimensional surface.
Mhm.
So some of the things I learned that make me attractive are my laugh and the way my face moves and energy, and just there's so much more to that, and it's really not important, but it can be a stumbling block. Is this making sense? Can you
It does. Well,
hear
first I'll
anything?
start by saying you're absolutely beautiful because of your like aesthetically, but also like you exude a certain aura, and that's where I kind of see beauty. It's funny because a lot of clients would tell me, I'll be like, "Oh my God, you're so gorgeous," and they're like, "You say that to everybody," and I was like, "Well, no, I don't. Yes, I do because I actually see people's qualities for like what they are. Like I think beauty is here, and I know this sounds so cliche and corny, but the way someone I would find someone so much more beautiful if they're like a good person and like they have a certain energy. Like I see that a lot more than I see all of this, and that um and so I work with women all ages and body types and sizes, and like I say things to them and they're like, "Really? I never knew that." Like I'll be like, "Wow, you have amazing legs." They're like, "I do?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Nobody's ever told me that, or I didn't know that about myself." Or I'll say, "You have to smile. You have dimples. Oh my God, I just noticed you have a chin dimple." She's like, "Nobody's ever brought that up before." They start to see themselves a little differently because
Mm-hmm.
they have someone objectively pointing out like these beautiful attributes that are less obvious than boobs and butt and
Mm-hmm.
lips and
Yeah,
hair, you know?
perfect hair and facial features. Yeah, and truthfully, confidence is so magnetic and appealing. Um,
Sometimes the way they move is so much more beautiful than anything else that they could be doing. You know what I mean? Like
mhm.
just their authentic movements. I mean, like some of like people look at my work, they're like, "How do you get all these gorgeous women?" And I'm like, "They're all like me, like normal, but it's because they're in that zone and they're in that authentic self. It just gives a different aura, you
Yeah.
know?" And
Mhm.
so, yeah, they are the most spectacular looking women because they're in their aura, you know?
Yes. I have somebody knocking at my door. It's probably a solicitor, but just in case it's something important, I'm going to pause one sec. Oh, it was a neighbor bringing me cauliflower from her garden. So,
Ooh,
yay, purple, bleh, purple cauliflower. I
I
threatened
love it.
I threatened to steal it. They have a front yard garden, and of course I wouldn't do that. But they're like, "Oh, we're leaving tomorrow on a trip, so we thought we'd bring that to you." So yay. Okay, so we
Oh,
we're talking about the what I love, what I'm hearing from you is that helping women understand their own unique beauty
right.
then can free up a part of them that then, as I said, we can then move on to, yes, I have beauty, I have confidence, I like myself. Do you remember that little uh, TikTok video of that girl in the bathroom, little girl saying, "I like
Oh,
myself." Do you remember that one?
I am strong. I am beautiful. I am confident. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So I love that you're doing work in the world that has something so much more important than just some nice pictures and a good time and making someone feel sensual, but that you and the people who are doing this kind of work have the ability to change the planet in one person at a time. So
Mhm.
yeah, I
It's
really
helping with themselves in a way that maybe they've never seen themselves, or maybe their loved one sees them that way, but they don't embrace it. And so when you have an objective view, like a boudoir shot, it's like, wow, like this is what I look like. Like, did you Photoshop it? And I actually, this is something I tell a lot of people. I shoot in RAW and I show them the raw images in the viewing appointment. I don't even edit them because I want them to see themselves straight out of camera because they're shocked at how good they look. And it's a mental exercise for them to say, there's no way I look that like that in real life. And I say, well, you do, just not up here, you know?
right, right. I love that. Oh, my mind is a whir and my heart. Um, Anything else about the confidence question or how someone can um, help their boudoir clients feel more confident?
One, I think, is just projecting and being a good role model for people and being authentic in your own confidence. And it's okay to be a little vulnerable. I think that that is a part of confidence. Being vulnerable is being brave. So I think that that's something. Um, then there's little tricks like, some women are not as in touch with their sensuality, or they're not comfortable. They'll say, I never wear lingerie. Oh my God. They're real. Why am I doing this? And I tell them, I was like, buy yourself a beautiful set and I want you to wear it around town, just under your clothes, and just strut around. Go to the bank, dry cleaners, the bakery, wherever you're going, supermarket, and nobody knows what's going on underneath, but you do. And see how you feel a little bit differently about yourself when you're carrying yourself around like that. It does something, you
Mm,
know. And
hmm.
I've done it myself. I'm giving away all my now that you're picturing me.
Yeah.
But it gives you a little spring in your step. It makes you
Mhm.
stand a little taller. Like I am a little more, I feel more feminine.
Mhm.
Um, so that's another thing. And then, there's a big thing with imposter syndrome. I think a lot of people feel, but syndrome comes from a place way back in time, from when you're young. And
Mm,
you have to figure out what those things are and address them so that they don't creep up into your professional life as
right,
an adult.
right. Yeah, junior high, I think, is the that tipping point where a lot of damage happens potentially if there's not processing it with whoever, whatever, it becomes so, I don't know what it is about that age where you're starting to identify with your peers and these are not adults. But yeah, anyway, I'm just
Definitely the most vulnerable phase, because I have an eighth grader right now and something happened to her last week. I called the principal. I said, this is unacceptable. to allow, junior high girls to feel this way. And as somebody who works in my line of work, I'm like, I'm not having it.
Hmm.
We got to protect those girls at that age,
Right.
especially.
Yeah. And I think like something I realized at my high school reunions is what I thought people thought of me. Number one, there were 2,000 plus people at my high school. So anybody that did think of me, they each had their own unique opinion of me, right?
Right.
And uh, just a general consensus of some people, like I didn't understand my leadership qualities. I didn't understand that the junior high group that hung out, I was kind of the what is it when you're getting people together, the community builder, and, but you don't know those things when you're young. But at least if we can, like what you're doing, process through some things so that you
Hmm.
can move on from wherever we are to that next phase of life with more confidence and more understanding of who we are uniquely. Because I mean, we're each just this treasure. Like if there was only one person in the world and it was you, that's enough. To,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That you're a miracle
Yeah.
and you're not any less than or any more than, you're equal to anyone else on the planet. Do you know what
There,
I mean by that?
yeah, there's a quote that I always think of, and it's like, what other people's opinions of you are is none of your business.
Yes.
And I have to remind myself in my head about that a lot so that I just don't care what other people think. But it's totally your business what you think about yourself, and you have to make it your business. You just mentioned about high school reunion. I had a client who went to my high school, and she said to me when she came in, she goes, "Thank you. You were always so nice to me and so kind to me in high school when not everyone was."
Hmm.
And I was shocked to hear it. I was shocked that she saw me. She was like, "You've always been so kind to me." And I didn't even realize I was doing it. But what shocked me more was that her own view of herself was so far from my view of her. Like, she thought of herself as like a nerdy fat girl outcast. And I looked at her like she was so pretty. She was so cool and like unique and artsy. Like, my vision of her was totally different than how she saw herself.
Hmm.
And then she was here as a client, you know? So bringing that to the camera,
Right.
like, that was her view, but I had a different view.
Right. Right. So what I love with what you do and what you teach is that you get to share in a very intimate way what you see, and because you've got the eyes to see it, to see the beauty, and to create images where the person can see your picture like in hard copy, like see themselves through the eyes of somebody who is, doesn't have an agenda. I mean, yes, of course, the agenda is you want them to have a great experience and give you money, but I'm sure that they sense your authenticity. So I would think that was something that is super important for people, especially doing this kind of work, is authentic um, feedback and support and encouragement, rather than just like, "Oh, you're so beautiful," and people say you say that to everybody. You know what you
Right.
just. So yeah, yeah. Oof.
I think you just reminded me though, like in our business, I feel like there's a lot of emphasis on like make the sale, bigger sales. Everyone's always talking about the money, the money, the money. When they come in for their viewing appointments, I always tell them like, this is maybe not the most conventional in-person sales approach, but I'll say, I don't care what you buy. You buy what you love.
Hmm.
So look at the images, see what speaks to you, and I will show them a lot. I show them a lot of images from the session. I call it down, but I will show them a lot. And I say, you know your own nuances better than I do. So I'm going to show you all of them. Even if they look similar, I want you to have that variety to see yourself and see real you. And they can't, a lot of times they can't narrow it down. But they'll be like, wow, that's a lot of images. And I was like, you don't have to do that. You just, make it very low pressure because there's an element of control in a sales process
Right.
too. And
Yes.
I don't want control and fear to get in the way of appreciation and art and their love for themselves.
Right.
So when I disarm them, that I'm not trying to sell to them and upsell them all the time. I'm priced right that I can make a living and do well,
Mhm.
but I'm disarming that, so that they
Right.
can be free to make choices based on what their needs are.
Hmm.
You know?
Yeah. 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 I like you said that I call it being the trusted advisor.
Yeah,
That when they sense we really care and we're knowledgeable and we're on their side,
right.
that's so important. Um, One thing, when it's talking about just the importance of having photographs of ourselves, I hear over and over again people say, "Oh, I wouldn't want a big picture because, who would want a big picture of themselves?" And I tell them about being photographed by Bruce Hudson. Do you know Bruce?
I feel like I recognize the name,
He's
but
in the Seattle area, and he's been one of the anyway, he's an icon in our industry. And he photographed me during a class that he was giving, and he captured the essence of me. It's mostly ocean, and I'm on a rock, and I'm laying almost like you would on your couch in a way, but on a rock. And I'm so surrendered. And anytime I felt like I'm, you know, I'm nothing, I'm ugly, I'm old, I'm stupid, I'm, like we do sometimes, I would look at that portrait and be reminded, oh, that's who I am.
yeah,
And year after year after year, day after day, that image large, I didn't have to go open a book. And so when I share that with people, and I just want to share that with the audience, because that is an objection often when with solo, is first of all, it doesn't have to be in your living room. It can be in a private space, but somewhere that you will be reminded every day, every time you look at it, of your power and your beauty and who you are unique in the world. And, it's a silent, eternal confidence booster. So, yeah, I love what you're doing and teaching and all that stuff.
I have a portrait like you, and I keep it next to my bed. So when I wake up in the morning, it's the first thing I see, and I'm like, "Be her today," you know.
Mm,
It's a self portrait, but I felt powerful in that portrait, and I felt poised and confident, and it reminds me just by having it on the wall. And I tell clients that all the time. It's not arrogant; it's a reminder.
right. And if I had a spouse and I had a photograph of me looking yummy, isn't it great to remind him or her of how
Yeah.
hot you are? And that, yeah, I've often thought like if I was doing what you do and I was thinking about where to market to, I would try to figure out how to reach women who wear uniforms all day long.
The nurse.
Nurses,
Oh my God, they're the best one.
firefighters. I've always thought that they would be firefighters, police women, women who don't get to dress up and do their hair nice, and but that underneath that uniform is is this beautiful human being. So yeah, I'm glad to hear that nurses are great clients for you.
Nurses and teachers are not only some of the best clients, but also their sessions are more usually on the spicier side. I think
Mm.
because they have to like let loose somewhere. So
Uh-huh. I like
it,
that. I like
yeah,
that. Oh gosh. Well, we could just talk forever, Kate.
I could with you.
Love it. So couple questions. And we didn't talk about this. Okay, I'm gonna pause one more time. Okay, so I have two and a half questions for you.
Okay.
one, I know you have a gift for my listeners.
Mhm.
So what would that be and how would they access that?
One thing I often teach in my classes is how to do a consultation and sit down with your clients, whether it's by phone or in person. And so I have a little guide of questions to help you get through and get to know them on an intimate level so that you can create the right kind of client experience for them.
Okay.
So your users can go to my page. I'll have something set up where they can request the consultation guide and they can download it from there.
So lifeasfineart.com/educate. Is that
Right. Educate like Kate.
aha, I love it. But it's still spelled the same way. But
Yep.
interesting. Okay. And I assume if they want to learn more, lifeasfineart.com
Yep.
is where they would go. Duh.
Have some workshops coming up. So if someone would like to be here at my beautiful cottage by the sea for a workshop, I'm also teaching in Costa Rica with the Brilliance Key.
Mhm.
And I'm usually at WPPI every year, and I just have private mentoring sessions as well.
Awesome. So if you want to learn more, Kate is a fountain of opportunity.
Thank you.
All right. So last question.
Mhm.
Either is there something that when we stop recording, you'd be like, oh, I wish I'd have mentioned that thing, or just a parting thought. What's on your mind for that? Floor is yours.
Well, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've struggled with this myself, but I see it a lot among photographers. Is that you have to define your own version of success. So success is not always measured in dollars and cents. There's a lot of emphasis, it seems like, on how much you're earning, and it's like that's kind of how you stack, or what speaking opportunities you get, and that's kind of how you stack. You have to decide what is success for you, and what does that look like. And for some people, it could be fame, or it could be money, like industry fame or
Mhm.
income. For other people, it's peace,
Mm.
or it's purpose in their work, or it's creativity. It could be a combination of all those things, but you almost have to prioritize all of those things, and stop frustrating yourself by trying to measure yourself in dollars and cents or speaking opportunities and things like that. It doesn't matter. What matters is what's important to you, and focus on that and grow from there.
I love that. I love that. I'm going to ponder that in my heart. So
Thank
you. So Kate, this has just been a delight, and
you for having me.
you're welcome. And everybody, stay tuned for my little quick wrap up. And I wish I could give you a good hug, Kate, but I'll just.
Virtual hug.
Okay. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you.
Well, gosh, that was fun. And I shared some very personal things with y'all. So I have confidence that you all, um, I don't know, will appreciate me being vulnerable about some of my life. And let's see. Okay, so Miss Cate Scaglione talked about the importance of a client experience and that luxury branding, luxury in the world now, the experience is what people are investing in. Some of the things she does is ad address all the senses. So the taste, so she has hot croissants, chocolate, prosecco, different things. Two is sound. She keeps them calm with certain music that is mellowing. Three, sight, and she makes sure that everything looks beautiful and comforting and calm. And, if you're having a different experience, then what you would do with sight would be different. Number four is touch. So she's got textures and velvets and layered rugs and different things. And then smell. She has a signature scent. So there's that. And we talked a lot about how creating all of this and a wonderful experience for a woman can change her life and help her be more confident, um, and unlock some hidden sensualities, um, and really contribute to the world beyond taking sexy pictures, which of a woman. There's so much more that can go into this kind of boudoir photography. So that is it for now. Be sure to check out lucydumascoaching.com. Watch this interview on YouTube, the Profitable Photographer podcast, or yeah, it's a Profitable Photographer. Anyway, that's it for now. Gotta run. But thank you for showing up week after week for this program. Bye.